And so the flames are, it says 30 feet high at this point.
Yeah.
It's a massive bonfire.
Bonfire. Whoop, 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 whoop. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, your favorite full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, starting with the Game of Thrones. As always, I'm Zach. Sitting here next to me, stretched, yawning, doing a thing, is Nate, my brother.
What up? So people who listen to podcasts at double speed right there are going to have to like rewind and listen to you because you were like top notch. It was go time.
Go time.
So if you joined us before, we are full spoiler. Thank you for returning. You know that already. It's for the new people who don't know, which is crazy that you're listening to this episode of all of them. You should probably go back, but
crazy.
You lost your mind for a second there. We will spoil everything, and so if you continue past this point, you will learn that Daenerys' dragons are born in this chapter.
Yeah.
If you joined us last episode, we were reading Catelyn.
We were crowned the king in the north.
11.
And it was cool. Catelyn and Robb were mirroring very much so their counterparts in Tywin and Tyrion with their observing their bannermen and their sworn lords.
Which will be funny that chapter then will mirror this one so much as well. But last time we saw Dany, she was smothering Drogo.
With her love.
Yeah, so she did try to save him and get him out of his catatonic state that he was left in after the blood magic.
Drogo.
She learned last chapter that Mirri Maz Duur had fucking played her for a fool.
Yeah.
And that did not make Dany very happy, but it was a lesson she needed to learn if she's going to eventually turn evil and kill all the people in King's Landing.
So I brought it up in the Jon Snow chapter. I don't know why.
The color red?
That. The color red.
Yeah, I remember because it was yelling at me.
Mm-hmm.
Just your
it's
notebook.
It's not yelling at you.
That's good. I like that.
But the color red is very prominent in this chapter again, and I had actually misspoke. I think Nate edited it out for my grace and dignity. But I mentioned that Dany, I believe, sees the comet here for the first time.
Yeah.
And so, jumping right in, we get that the land was red and dead and parched. Good wood was hard to find. Her foragers found what they could and arranged the logs in a square, its center filled with straw and brush and bundles of dry grass. Rakaro chose a stallion, and Aggo led him to the center, fed him an owl. An owl.
Fed him an owl.
Fed him an owl.
Fuck yeah, man.
God damn.
Wow.
Fed him an apple, hungry for apples, and dropped him with a single axe blow between the eyes in the center of the square.
Whack. Yeah, so it's...
We're building a pyre. For Drogo.
Yeah, okay.
And apparently Dany is channeling a little bit of the blood magic here.
So that's, I think, the perception that's supposed to be thrown
That's
out.
what Mirri Maz Duur is.
But really, it's a Dothraki tradition.
Yes, it is, too.
And while it's not his great red stallion that he was so known for riding, they've picked the most adequate horse that they could.
The nicest one they have on hand right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's all that's actually happening here. Because the first clue for us should, not as rereaders, if you're new to it, would be the Dothraki do not partake in blood magic.
Yeah.
So these two would not be
the
slaughtering
fact that they're
this.
willing to kill a horse and do this for the funeral pyre is...
So for Mirri Maz Duur, that should have been her side.
Bound hand and foot, Mirri Maz Duur watched with disquiet in her eyes. It is not enough to kill a horse, she says. By itself, the blood is nothing. You do not have the words to make a spell, nor the wisdom to find them. You think blood magic is a game for children? You call me magi as if it were a curse, but all it means is wise. You are a child with a child's ignorance. Whatever you mean to do will not work. Loose me from these bonds. I will help you. So, I think we learned quite a little bit about Mirri Maz Duur right there.
Yeah.
In that, you know, the symbolic calling her of the Magi throughout the entirety of us meeting her between the Dothraki, Drogo himself, eventually Dany now. It is that's the wisdom of it, is having the capability of doing these things. But she was a god's wife. She wasn't hurting anybody.
Right.
She wasn't using this ability to destroy things until everything of hers was destroyed first. And so that's what she's saying, is you don't have the wisdom to separate that. You would have this power and you would feel compelled to use it, as we're going to get with the dragons. You would be given such a great gift burden with great responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Uncle Ben.
But you would feel compelled to use it, whereas Mirri Maz Duur, she was healing people. She was being a god's wife. She wasn't casting crazy ritual dances and summoning things. She was just healing people. So I just really like that she calls her out on that. You're still a child with a child's ignorance, believing this usurper's lies and all this bullshit and not seeing the truth about your own father.
She's going to hold so steady to that ideology that she knows what's right from this point on, like, because she is going to learn this lesson in a fashion here that she was intended, and she does some growing
in this chapter, definitely,
but at the same time she now has that mentality of, if I look back, I'm lost, and so what I do from this point on, I can't question.
And I also I feel like her saying, whatever you mean to do won't work, so loose me from these bonds, I'll help. That's her final set,
attempts at begging.
Not even, I think it's just her saying, you are such a child that, this could work for me, to keep asking this question. And it's just that final, you trusted me once enough, have you learned yet, you ignorant child, that you can't just assume everybody that you think you save is going to worship at your feet. So I think it's just that last kind of twist the wound. And so Dany turns and says, I am tired of this Magi's braying. And Joko put his whip to her. And after that, the god's wife fell silent.
Yeah, and so they start...
how cruel Dany is.
Well, that's it. She
just ordered the whipping of this woman she saved.
That, and not to mention what she's going to be moving forward with. But because she was very against that kind of treatment to the slaves, to the
braying of the lamb
and
woman.
Her herself, she called it. She basically compared it to a horse.
She was full Dothraki there. Yeah, I grow tired of this woman's fucking hee-hawing. Yeah. So whip her, because she's whippable.
Yeah. So the Dothraki continue building the pyre and start placing all of Drogo's greatest possessions with him up on the pyre, because he's not there yet. But Dany orders the 3 bride's gifts that she was given on her wedding day that she presented to him, because they aren't for a woman technically.
Yeah.
And so that's the bow, the whip that he received from his father, I believe, and the big sharp rock that he carried around. I lost my train of thought. Anyway.
They, on top of that, then pile a bunch more dried brush grass, and Jorah draws her aside as the sun begins to creep down. And, Princess, he begins, and she asks, why do you call me that? My brother Viserys was your king, was he not? And Jorah answers, he was, my lady. Viserys is dead. I am his heir. The last blood of House Targaryen, whatever was his, is mine now.
Yeah, so Jorah drops to his goddamn knee.
Yeah.
And my queen.
I mean, she's demanding that now.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of as much of a turn as it is to... Again, you can very much see this villain here, this twisted, no, she's entitled to this. These are her rights and everything, and she's embracing it, and she needs to survive. Nobody's doubting that. But that kind of treatment is that's very the Mad King, not Aegon the Conqueror.
Yeah.
It's not that, befriend. There's this, you're going to submit to me or die.
I mean, and that's sort of, but that's because Aegon
did the same
allowed the North to bend the knee.
Well, that's it.
And so there's, it's so good. But yeah, Jorah says, my queen, my sword that was his is yours, Daenerys, and my heart is as well, that never belonged to your brother. I am only a knight, nothing to offer you but exile, but I beg you, hear me. Let Khal Drogo go. You will not be alone. You need not join the Ashkelin. I will protect you. Come east with me. Yeti, Karth, the Jade Sea, Ashai by the Shadow. Please, Khaleesi, I know what you intend. Do not.
So it's funny, because while Mirri Maz Duur is misinterpreting her attempt at blood magic, Jorah is expecting her to do something herself that has nothing to do with blood magic.
No,
He
it's
doesn't believe that.
it's grief driven,
Yes.
yeah.
And
The loss of her child, the loss of her husband.
she doesn't realize that that's what he thinks.
No, yeah.
She's like, oh, he must know I'm going to try and put my dragons in here. Because at this point, that's what she knows, that she's putting the dragon eggs in here. At least I'm fairly confident.
Yeah, no, same, yeah.
And so that's what she's planning, and he doesn't see it
because
as...
she reaches us up and touches his face sadly, fondly, and says, I must. You do not understand. So I think she does see it, that he's doing it thinking she's grieving, and she's beyond that. She's saying, I'm not grieving over Drogo. Like, I've made my peace, but this is something entirely different. Like,
and well, that's what I mean.
I have to do this. This is what
exactly.
for these eggs to hatch.
Right.
I have to. You won't understand that. Like, how am I going to explain?
That's it, and that's why his next line is because he doesn't understand, and that's what I was meaning.
Yeah.
She wants to place the eggs in there. That's her plan from this point on, and he doesn't see that. He thinks she's going to.
I understand you loved him. You are my queen. My sword is yours, but do not ask me to stand aside as you climb on Drogo's pyre. I will not watch you burn.
Yeah, which amuses her, and that's again it. She's like, oh, you, hold up.
Is that what you feel?
I'm making you bend the knee, and I'm gonna make all them. You think I'm gonna go kill myself right now?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah, that's it too. Yeah, she just had him do that. And she kisses him lightly on the forehead. I am not such a child as that, sweet sir. And he asks, you swear it? You do not mean to die? And I swear it, she replies.
And I think that's actually, the way Martin writes. I like the way that he makes it seem like there's 4 different potential things that she's going to do here with the blood magic, with her throwing herself in, with her, like, it hasn't even been revealed that she's actually going to be doing the eggs yet.
Yeah, she hasn't even
and that's
fetched the
just
eggs.
what we'll learn. But
the third level of the platform was woven branches no thicker than a finger, covered with dry leaves and twigs, and the sun had begun to lower by the time they were done.
To finish my point, I like the way that Martin had her getting condescended by Mirri Maz Duur with "you're too much of a child," but then with Jorah, it's "do you think I'm so much of a child that I would do that?" Like, to show that she really has gained this wisdom overnight.
Yeah, she's grown with it.
Like, that lesson was a hard, cruel one from Mirri Maz Duur, but like, she needed that. I mean,
she grew there, and that's what I like about Mirri Maz Duur, because I think her last little go there was more everlasting with the dragons. The power that you're gonna feel compelled to use this power, and it's gonna consume you type thing. In this book, she's definitely an entirely different woman from here to the little scared, frightened girl in chapter.
It's apparent here because she now calls all the Dothraki that are around to her.
Fewer than 100 remain.
Yeah, and she announces that they are her Khalazar.
Well, before she does, she says fewer than 100 remain. How many had Aegon started with? She wonders. And then, it does not matter. And she goes on, you will be my Khalazar.
And she just takes those 3
She
weapons.
frees the slaves. I see the face of slaves.
Right,
Take off your collars, go. If you stay, it'll be his brothers and sisters, husbands, and watching her weary.
So she takes the first of the 3 bride's gifts and offers it to one of the Blood Riders.
Drogo gets the silver-handled whip. That was my bride's gift. I name you Ko and ask of your oath that you'll live and die as blood of my blood riding at my side to keep me safe from harm. He takes the whip, but his face is confused. Khaleesi, this is not done. It would shame me to be a blood rider for a woman. And
that's fine. Like, she just kind of ignores it and goes to the next one.
Argo, she gives the dragon bone bow and the exact same spiel.
Response,
I want you to be, and he accepts the bow, but he cannot say the words. Only a man can be a Khal.
And then he turns to the last one, Ricaro, I think, and offers him the Arak. And he accepts the Arak and says that he will be happy to escort her to Vaes Dothrak and allow her to serve as Costeline, but that's the most he can do.
Yeah.
He can't serve as her blood rider.
She nodded calmly and turned to her last champion.
Yeah, the one who's fucking hard for her anyway, the fucking weirdo.
Sir Jorah Mormont, first and greatest of my knights, I have no bride's gift for you, but promise one day you shall have from my hands a long sword forged like none the world has seen before. Dragon forged and made of Valyrian steel. I ask your oath as well. You have it, my queen.
So, before we get into creepy Jorah, I didn't even pick up on it till you mentioned how she, like, one more clue that she's aware that she's having dragons born tonight.
Yeah, these dragons will forge this
because
sword for
I
you.
will have the capabilities to forge you a brand new dragon forged
The first
sword.
one made in hundreds of years.
What
a gift.
I'm gonna see if
Yeah,
George
I
wants her to
feel
do
like that will, yeah.
And I didn't even realize that till then when you mentioned it again. But yeah, now Jorah gets into, he's gonna serve her with every
I'll serve
iota
you,
of his being.
obey you,
Is he still serving the Seven Kingdoms at all right now?
I think he's devoted to her at this point.
Yeah.
I think since the wine merchant, really,
Me too,
when he stopped that. But yeah, I vow to serve you, obey you, to die for you if need be. Whatever may come, she asks him. Whatever may come. And she says, I shall hold you to that oath, and pray you never regret giving it. And she lifted him to his feet, kissed his lips gently, and said, You are the first of my queen's guard. And she could feel the eyes on her as she entered the tent, with the Dothraki muttering and giving her concerned looks.
Looking at her as though she is mad.
Oh, boy.
So, and this is uplifting stuff right here. Where
Yeah.
she's like taking command, taking charge of her people.
Her destiny.
And that's it. But really, like, she's subjugating them to a different kind of slavery. Like,
Yeah.
And, like, they're going to be compelled to follow her out of fear and wonder.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, she's going crazy over here. But
And yeah, just the use of the word mad, the Mad King Aerys.
yeah, and so she keeps throwing in the line here, which I think we've heard it a couple times at this point throughout the chapter, but if I look back, I am lost. And that, again, I think is just that big red arrow that's showing what direction she's headed, where...
Yeah, it's her justification for things.
She's
I just
capable
gotta
of-
keep going forward with it. I made this decision. Her bath was scalding hot, just the way she liked it. She liked the heat. It made her feel clean, and I would imagine that has to do with the fever dream. When the heat, literally, she felt it in her womb, kind of cleansing her. Her handmaidens scrubbed her clean. They brushed out her hair till it shone, and after they dried and scented her, she sent them away so she might prepare Khal Drogo.
Yeah, so basically she goes through, brushes his hair, washes him, puts all the bells, each and every one, into his hair, and just kind of reminisces about him and his hair.
She asks him, Forgive me, son of my life, forgive me for all I've done and all I must do. I paid the price, my star, but it was too high. And she braided his hair, hung the bells, and the sun was going down when she called them back to carry his body to the pyre. What do you think she's tolling the price as? His death and her babies? Or
I think both.
for the lesson or for her dragons being born?
I think the lesson was all of, like, she's realizing the reality of the situation, the fact that she lost her son and her husband.
The fact that she caused it.
And the fact that she caused it. And so it's this lesson that she was forced to learn, that she needed to learn, that kind of pushed her into knowing about the dragons. That's the real, like, I now have the knowledge of what I'm supposed to do. But it was at the expense of you, our child, all the people, the army we had, and sorry.
Yeah, so the Dothraki watched in silence as Drogo and Aggo bore Drogo from the tent, Dany walking behind them, and they laid him on the cushions in the silk, and she commands the oil be poured, and they brought the jars, and they douse that shit.
And then she says to the handmaidens, bring me my eggs. And something in her voice made them run. I think it was just the determination, it's the command, excuse me, the command when she's as confident as she currently is, knowing what she's doing. that they're like, oh shit, like this is she knows what she wants it now, and it's just showing how capable Dany can
how
be.
awestruck everybody is right now. They are enthralled watching this terrifying queen woman diddy popping around the campsite, just demanding crazy shit and talking mad shit to a magi woman and having her whipped. And Jorah took her arm. My queen, Drogo will have no use for dragon's eggs in the Nightlands. Better to sell them in a shy.
They were not given to me to sell. And I think she, again, it's her implying without anybody knowing, because it's her own shit, that
she's supposed to hatch them.
It's my destiny to hatch these. They weren't given to me to go and sell them off. They were given to me because fate determined it.
When they hatch, they'll be worth more than any egg ever could be. And yeah, she climbed onto the pyre herself to place the eggs around her sun and star. The black around beside his heart, the green beside his head, his braid coiled around it, the cream and gold between his legs. And when she kissed him for the last time, she could taste the oil on his lips.
And now I'm thinking that the real blood magic that occurs is the sacrifice of the baby, Drogo and Mirri, with the assistance of the horse blood, because Mirri was using horse blood but didn't have the sacrifices correct. And that coupled with the comet's magic, that's kind of why the dragons, on top of because if it was just fire, then all the dragons at Summerhall would have been born as well. And so having the magic back in the world with the 3 sacrifices plus the blood horse, the horse blood horse, that's a weird. Anyway.
Yeah, the figuring out the components of what causes it to happen, or like, is it just circumstance? The fact that there's the comet coming back into orbit that she's coming into orbit that she's gonna be seeing here soon. Mirri Maz Duur doing some blood magic before, maybe, or not, and her life being at stake. The dead Khal, this glorious Khal, as we've learned by all the treasures and trinkets, which in itself is no small.
And his prophesized son,
his prophesized stallion who mounts the world, and then the representative of his great stallion, and then the dragon eggs themselves, with Dany having this prophetic Targaryen dream. Like, what the fuck? What is the actual formula here?
So as Dany comes stepping out of the pyre area,
you are mad. The God's wife shouts at her. The God's wife shouts at her, you are mad.
Now she's a God's wife, not a magi.
Yeah.
And Dany asks her, is it so far from madness to wisdom?
I can just see Ares saying that exact same thing.
So it's just a very wise thing for a child to say.
It's a very dangerous line to toe. Because passing off what you declare as wisdom could very much so be madness. And that's what Ares the King the Second was. Is he thought everything he was doing was to save the realm and keep himself safe and his family safe. He saw enemies everywhere. He was convinced in his own warped little mind that he was doing what was right and he was doing the smart thing. Right. And so that's the comparison I'm getting here, is that, for a child to come out with that line, that's fucking insane.
Profound.
Yeah. But if she's using it as a justification,
the knowledge, it's
worthless
that line? If you're not acknowledging
yourself in that exact web that can be, is it so far from wisdom to madness? So it's such a loaded line.
And she commands Ser Jorah, tie Mirri Maz Duur to the pyre.
Yeah. He hesitates.
What? And she tells Drogo, I think it was, help Jorah if he's going to puss out. Because she's like, didn't you just say you were going to follow me no matter what?
Yeah.
I plan on slaughtering millions of people, yo. Like, get ready. Yeah. Get fucking ready.
And it says, the God's wife didn't cry out as she was staked down. Dany poured the oil over the woman's head herself. I thank you, Mirri Maz Duur, Dany said, for the lessons you have taught me. And Mirri responds with, you will not hear me scream. And Dany gets kind of brutal here.
Yeah.
I will, but it is not your screams I want, only your life. I recall what you told me. Only death can pay for life. And Mirri Maz Duur made no reply to that. And then there was nothing to be done but watch the sun and look for the first star.
As she steps away, Dany saw the contempt was gone from Mirri's flat black eyes. In its place, something that could be fear. So I think she's realizing a lot of, like, oh shit, these dragon eggs, like you said, you are gonna have some power that you're going to be ruthless with. I think kind of foreseeing the Mad King.
Yeah, I think this is the moment where Mirri is saying, like, oh, like, not even me being, like, the snotty, kind of bitchy, deservedly, that I've been, where I'm teaching you snarkily these lessons. Like, oh, shit, you're actually about to do some shit and actually gain some true power, and that's pretty scary of a fact. And then the fact that Dany's pouring the oil over herself is pretty fucking intense as well. And so, so
I wrote down this quote here about... It's when a horse lord dies, his horse is slain with him, so he might ride proud into the Nightlands. The bodies are burned beneath the open sky, and the Khal rises on his fiery steed to take his place among the stars. The more fiercely the man burned in life, the brighter his star will shine in the darkness. Drogo spied it first. The first star was a comet. And
burning red, blood red, fire red, the dragon's tail.
Man, like, again, this is the very last chapter of the book. We're clearly setting up some fucking wonderful stuff that, may or may not pan out the way we expect at the moment. But just the way that the foreshadowing goes with that, like, here's the comet that's been hinted at in these other chapters, in the past, just one or two, but they've appeared, and then for that to be the first sign, and she takes it as a sign. That's
what's so interesting is we know that this comet didn't just enter the atmosphere wherever on Planetos at this moment. It's been zooming around for a minute now, so just the fact that it's the first star they're seeing this night, like the significance of that, they're reading into it heavily as, oh, this is Drogo's star, and Dany, obviously the fire red, the dragon's tail type thing, like, she's reading into that as like, oh yeah, no, I'm 1,000% right in what I'm doing now. And so
she thrusts the torch into the brush.
Yeah, the oil took fire at once, and Dany stepped backwards as the heat grew. Mirri Maz Duur began to sing a long ululating cry. Logs cracked and split, and the fire swept over Mirri, and her song grew louder, shriller, until it became a shuddering wail, high and thin and full of agony. And now the flames reached for Drogo. His clothing took fire, and Dany found herself holding her breath. Part of her wanted to go to him, as Jorah feared, rush into the flames, the fire melting their flesh until they were as one together.
So I think that right after this part is kind of when Dany's going to make that final little descent and turn towards her goals and whatever she's willing to accomplish, because she says that the smell of the burning flesh is the same as the smell of burning horse meat. And so now she's just comparing, like, because once she has the dragons...
and burns people alive.
Everything burns the same.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of now seeing these people as these horses, as these animals.
Yeah.
And so I think that little side thing with the smells...
And right after the smell, it's the pyre roared like a great beast, drowning out Mirri's screams. So yeah, she's already associating it with a great beast consuming, and it just smells of horse meat. The Dothraki backed away, coughing and sputtering from the heat. The heat beat at the air with the great red wings, driving even Mormont back, but Dany stood her ground. She was blood of the dragon, and the fire was in her. And she sensed the truth long ago, and she stepped closer to the pyre, but the brazier had not been hot enough. She opened her arms to the dancing flames. This is a wedding too, she thought. Mirri had fallen silent by this point. The god's wife thought her a child, but children grow and learn.
Yeah, so that was the line that really hints that she's been aware that she's planning on hatching some dragon eggs.
Yeah.
She's saying that from the time we last saw her when she was seeing the dragon eggs in the brazier right after her, when she woke up, she kind of had the feeling that like it was there. And even before that, way back when they were in the brazier, she had those like they're stirring because of the heat, and like there was that. How hot what if it's hotter?
Yeah, what if it's hotter?
And so now she's finally doing what's necessary to get that heat.
In almost a spell manner as well, with like the dead horse, the magi, all the
something that
oil
means something special to her with her husband there, and all these treasures and all this different stuff. And then having Mirri Maz Duur doing her shrill singing right then anyway.
Yeah,
who knows? Maybe that's why this occurred. That's the magic. that happened.
Whatever
Mirri's
who knows? Saying,
but.
Another step, and Dany could feel the heat of the sand through her sandals, sweat running down where once tears had run. Ser Jorah was shouting behind her, but he didn't matter anymore. Only the fire mattered. And the flames were beautiful, each one a sorcerer robed in yellow and orange and scarlet. She saw fire lions and great yellow serpents and unicorns made of pale blue flame. She saw fish and foxes and monsters, wolves, bright birds, flowering trees. She saw a horse, a great gray stallion limbed in smoke. Yes, my love. Yes, my sun and stars. Mount now. Ride now. So she's thinking here that she's seeing Drogo's spirit there mounting the horse. And
I think all the animal references and everything there are intentionally alluring to different things, but I feel like they're 100% red herrings by George. That they're just her seeing various animals, creatures, life forms throughout the world that she's...
The fire is raging, essentially, is what I'm getting. And it's moving intensely. There's a ton of different things that she's either seeing or thinking she's seeing. And so her vest had begun to smolder by this point, so she shrugged it off and let it fall to the ground. The painted leather burst into flames as she walked closer. Now, she thought. Now, and for an instant she saw Drogo before her, mounted on his smoky stallion, a flaming lash in his hand. He smiled, and the whip snaked down at the pyre, hissing. She heard a crack. The sound of shattering stone. The platform began to shift and collapse. So, the first egg
just
has
hatched.
Yes. And Dany was showered with ash and cinders, and something else came crashing down, bouncing and rolling to land at her feet. A chunk of curved rock, pale and veined with gold, broken and smoking. So, this is the top half or bottom half of the egg rolling down.
Right,
There's
exactly.
a dragon in these flames now. The roaring filled the world. I mean, is that its first cry? Yeah.
Right.
And dimly, Dany...
I think it's more the fire, but like again,
absolutely.
Probably something shrieking in there.
Dimly, Dany heard women and children cry out in wonder.
Yeah, there's people out there watching this woman walk into a fire, hearing this crash of stuff,
and watching the pyre collapsing around her.
Probably hearing dragons shrieking in there.
Only death can pay for life, she thinks. There came a second crack, loud and sharp as thunder, and the pyre shifted. Dany heard the screams of frightened horses and the Dothraki voices raised in shouts of fear and terror, and Jorah calling her name.
Yeah, and so the flames are, it says, 30 feet high at this point.
Yeah.
This is a massive bonfire.
Bonfire.
And the pyre kind of finally breaks and collapses in on Dany at this point. So all this shit's kind of bursting.
She hears Jorah shouting, and she wants to shout back to him, No, my good knight. Do not fear for me. The fire is mine. I am Daenerys Stormborn, daughter of dragons, bride of dragons, mother of dragons. Don't you see? Don't you see? So yeah, she's in it already. Yeah. She's already in it to win it. Like, she definitely knew what the fuck she was going into this pyre for. So with a belch of flame and smoke, the pyre collapsed and came down around her. Unafraid, Dany stepped forward into the firestorm, calling to her children. There was a third crack.
I also like how it had just shown, there was the children and mothers, the other people screaming outside.
Yeah.
And so it's so vague throughout this there's actually dragons hatching and everything on a first read where you might think she's walking towards her family. Oh, she's killing herself. Oh, It's so fucking well done. God damn it.
The third crack was as loud and sharp as the breaking of the world. And that's that.
Yeah.
When the fire died at last and the ground cooled enough to walk upon, Ser Jorah Mormont found her amidst the ashes, surrounded by blackened logs and glowing ember, and the burnt bones of man, woman, and stallion. She was naked, covered in soot, her clothes turned to ash, her beautiful hair all crisped away, yet she was unhurt.
And yeah, suckling at each teat and one curling around with her were 3 tiny little baby dragons.
When it saw Ser Jorah, the black and scarlet beast draped around her shoulders, its long neck coiled under her chin. When it saw Ser Jorah, it raised its head and looked at him with eyes as red as coals. The knight fell to his knees. The men of her cause came up behind him. Drogo was the first to lay his rock at her feet, murmuring, "Blood of my blood." Aggo echoed it. Rakaro shouted it. And after her came the handmaidens, and the rest, all the Dothraki. Dany only had to look at their eyes to know that they were hers now, today, and tomorrow, and forever. Hers as they had never been Drogo's.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they just watched her
dragons,
walk in and birth
just,
these creatures that haven't
after she was
existed
born.
forever.
So, as Daenerys Targaryen rose to her feet, her black hissed, pale smoke venting from its mouth and nostrils. The other 2 pulled away from her breasts and added their voices to the call, translucent wings unfolding and stirring the air. And for the first time in hundreds of years, the night came alive with the music of dragons.
That's not a dragon.
And that's the end of Game of Thrones.
That's the end of book 1.
Now, I had mentioned at the beginning of this episode, that's exactly how Kat's chapter ended. For the first time in hundreds of years, a cry, words that had not been heard, King in the North. For the first time in hundreds of years, the sound of dragons, the music of dragons filled the air. Like, perfect mirrors of the 2 houses. Dragons, King in the North. And, like, it's just, fuck you, George Martin. You're so good at what you do.
Yeah, what a fucking way to end a book, man. Having these eggs actually finally hatches. Especially for Dany, because, like, god damn this woman.
Yeah.
She's so interesting and terrifying, and like it's sweet to watch her when she's just like, nah, I know what the fuck I'm doing, but then it's also like, you're kind of scary. You got an inductee for Dany? Dany's last chapter.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it to Jorah. He knelt and was her queen's guard before she had the dragons, and then he was still the first one to kneel when the dragons were born. And, you know, as creepy as he is, he hasn't gotten to that point yet, so I can at least give him one more induction for the book.
Yeah, no, I didn't test Jorah in this chapter.
Yeah, he's in it to win it. He was just he was worried about her, you know, thinking grief had overtaken her, and so he's just looking out for her. But, yeah, so I'm going to give it to Jorah this one.
Word. Mine's going to Drogo for...
Again?
Yeah, for having the sweet send off.
Yeah,
like
with the fire Drogo
and like the comet like coming up, like at his because everything of significance has to be under the stars and yada yada yada. So the fact that like it was the comet, it was cool, and like at least he got a good send off, even if he had a shit death. So for Drogo, for probably the last time anyway. So
wiggity word.
And I mean, I was gonna give it to Dany, but I think that's like. Not the easy one, because obviously she would deserve it too, because it's just intense, her growth from point A to point B here. But we did, however, get an inductee from our favorite French fry.
Our little French fry, Julian!
And Julian says, "Good day to you, fine sirs. Aw, Ser Jorah. And die for you if need be." It's cute, isn't it? It's happening.
It's happening.
They thought her mad, Dany realized. She won't realize it much anymore. At some point, will she? Is it so far from madness to wisdom? I feed on this stuff. It's brilliant. I feel ya. I feel you, dog.
It's so good, this chapter.
He says, "My inductee for this final chapter will be Daenerys. Sorry if that's not really original here. That's A-okay. because it's a debate, and this is why. I liked how she gained certainty of what she was doing little by little. I am pretty sure she knew what she wanted to accomplish here, sacrificing the horse and the magi. Yet she came closer and closer to the brazier, gaining the confidence her steps were there. When the first egg cracks, she steps in and embraces her true nature, mother of dragons. I have said many times I will end up hating her confidence and arrogance. However, in this chapter, I tend to love it. The birth of dragons and the return of magic is moreover an act of importance. I can sense it and guess it through the spoilers I've had to deal with for months about the books. Knowing that I am still super thrilled to discover how this rebirth of magic is going to influence things. The TV show wasn't really good about magic. The books are going to be awesome for me in that perspective. In conclusion, I'll add a special heads up for the Red Comet, mysterious thing that every main character is going to witness, and we're going to read their feelings and interpretations of it, which are great. Can't wait for you guys to get to Clash of Kings. Hurry up, guys. Valor Dragonis. Julian.
Word.
So yeah, Dany was. I was thinking about giving it to Dany just because of how assured of herself she is in this.
So yeah, I'm glad she was able to get in one last time, and so you don't have to wait too much longer, Julian. That again wraps up the final chapter of Game of Thrones. So our very next episode is going to be just a full book overview. I'm not really sure yet whether that's going to be a pretty short conclusion.
Yeah, it'll probably be a pretty quick wrap up.
A lot of speculation and just discussion on probably what we're excited for in the next book, and so that's what we have to look forward to after that. But again, we are going to take a couple week hiatus. We need to get some stuff planned and worked on, and
life's pretty busy, you know. Excuse me while I yawn.
Speaking of busy,
life's pretty busy, you know, so we got to try to get ahead on some recording before we fall behind.
Yeah, so after the wrap-up episode, which I think will be coming out on the following Monday after this one, and then there'll be the 2 weeks, and then we'll be coming at you with Clash of Kings Prologue.
There should be a Patreon episode released in that time as well, and so, yeah, we'll keep you guys updated, obviously, but for now, our routine will be the same.
You can still get us some inductees for Clash of Kings now that we have moved forward. Get those to us. Our email, withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. Hit us up on the Facebook in that interim there. You could definitely still message us, write to us, hit us up on Twitters. Facebook.com/Brotherhood Podcast. We're on Instagram @MannersWithout. Nate's on Twitter @MannersWithout. Zach @Carstark92.
Papa.
And the Patreon is patreon.com/WithoutManners.
Word. Yeah, hit us up. Or if not, just check out our wrap-up episode where we're just going to generally touch on the book, what we liked, what we loved, who died, and move on forward into a Clash of Kings where things are about to get very complicated indeed.
So thanks for being with us throughout the entire book.
Yeah, we finished a book together, guys.
Like 70 episodes, 71 or something.
I think, 71.
That's crazy.
Craziness.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so,
never actually thought we'd do it. So if you've been here writing in and having fun with us, we fucking appreciate it. So catch us on the next one. Valor Dragonis.
Peace.